All right, welcome everybody. Today, it's a discussion with Ben from Taboo Conspiracy. We're going to talk about our favorite flat Earth proofs and see where the conversation takes us. Ben, you and I have known each other for 10 years now. I mean, out from online. Have we ever done a stream together? I don't remember.
Only with the Glowbusters.
Yeah, we've been on Glowbusters. Right. So you and I are having a conversation for the first time.
But did you remember the first time that we actually conversed? I'm just curious if you remember.
Remind me. I don't remember.
It was a radio station.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
It was the Utah. I forget even the name, but we were on a Utah radio station. It might have been the first one to actually interview you. And
then you were on with me? You came on? Are you called in?
Yeah, it was an AM talk radio out of Utah. And you saved me a few times to see if I could spark some memory. But there was a couple of times where, who's that guy that does the painting? I forget, one of the original.
Matt Boylan? Matt.
Yeah. He was supposed to show up several times on the radio show, but he wouldn't show. He kept not showing up. But you would come on that radio show for us and fill in for him. And there were a couple of times where you just came in out of the blue and you said, I'll hop in. And you actually hopped in and on some of the calls and stuff like that too. But that was the first time we were in communication. I think that was back in 2015.
Yeah.
When we first did those radio shows.
Almost 9 years ago. Amazing. Anyway,
that was the first time that we talked, and you were very helpful to me back then. And your playlist was on your DITRH channel was one of the best things I ever saw, because I just went through every video, studied every one of those videos before I began my own testing and stuff like that. But that was so I'm actually very grateful to you for the work that you've done and kind of opening my eyes.
And so I opened your eyes, you opened my eyes. I mean, this is a whole big thing. People are like, oh my God, it's Flat Earth Dave. No, I'm just a guy that likes to communicate with other people. We're having a conversation. You've got all the best tests on the app. If you go to the web button, that's the more resources page, and you scroll down to, where is it? Flat Earth tests. You're on here somewhere.
Facts.
Wait, where was it? It's
bottom left.
Bottom left. Oh, experiments right here. Right there, experiments. Bam. And that's all there might be a couple under there, but all of the best put together videos on scientific, am I allowed to say that word? Tests. Well scrutinized tests.
Exactly.
And
I just made a 30-minute video that's going to cover a lot of those. Took me a long time to make it, but hopefully we'll add another video to your list there.
That'll be at the top of that list after you see this discussion that we have today. So I was going to say one other thing about but I can't remember what it was. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. So where do you want to start? Like what
Listen, if I could start is when we're talking about the top 10 proofs of the flat Earth. The number, before I get
hold on. Yeah. Before we go, I just remember what I was going to say. You have some of my favorite lines in Flat Earth. We've been here 9 years talking to each other, and we're still here. The reason we're still here is because the Earth is not a globe. If the Earth was a globe, there would be no flat earthers. And then the other line that you said that's better than that, if you can tell the Earth isn't a globe because we'd all be dead.
Yeah.
My favorite line.
It's absolutely true. But anyway, what you're just mentioning is top 10, it's kind of a hard list to come up with, but for me, the total, before I get into that, our list, the total lack of evidence of the globe was one of the big keys for me. Is when I first looked at it, I tried to approach it objectively. I think all of us were trying to debunk it to show that it's all nonsense and all that stuff. And so I wanted to approach it objectively and fairly. And so I was like, okay, everybody come up with the top proofs of the globe and the top proofs of the flat Earth. And so you start getting these proofs of the globe. And then, first one you get is like, the Cavendish, with gravity or the pendulum, the Foucault pendulum. And you start looking into it and you're like, that's kind of, that's pretty stupid. This isn't anything what I would call like substantial evidence in favor of the globe. And it just became so obvious that there was just so little evidence of the globe. And yet people were believing it like it's some like it's absolutely established fact. And so that was kind of my first keynote into understanding that there was a problem there, is to see the total lack of evidence that was on the globe side. And so, but if we're going to begin with the flat Earth evidence, I would say the first number one top proof for me is our long distance observations, and I've shared quite a few of them on my channel in the past, and I don't want to cover too much because I just made a video on it, but I would say, I don't know if you remember these, but I would say the top five, what I call the top five long distance observations that are not mine. Number five would be the Grota 1 8-mile frozen lake test. Do you remember that one? Uh-oh, I don't hear you.
I always like muting myself
Okay.
occasionally because, I just want to hear myself talk. No one else has to really hear what I say. Would it be this one?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So 6 inches off the ice. He's got these four lights out there, 8, 7, 6, 5 miles away. There should be 30, 22, 15, and 9 feet of curvature. So they're behind the curve. Each one's refracting up the perfect amount to stop and appear at eye level. Or
Yeah, absolutely.
they're right there.
And that's why I love it, because first of all, it debunks the curvature. Also debunks the idea that it can't happen on anything but open water. This is on a frozen lake. So all of them should be already obscured by the curvature of the Earth. The horizon, I think, is supposed to be like within 1 mile of the camera.
Yeah, I think less than a mile at 6 inches off the ground.
Yeah, and so, but they're all just the refraction idea, the hump of curvature disappeared in just a way so that all those lights could appear on the same line, on the same level plane.
Let me ask you a question. So if you're looking into the distance, so this is a building in the distance, and here is another building, but it's behind the building. How come this one, if it was, let's say it was 8 miles behind the building, how come it doesn't refract sideways so you see it over here?
That's another good point. Is I made a recent video where the idea, what if there was a house at the alleged globe horizon, and somebody 6 miles away was standing behind that house? Could you ever imagine that house disappearing and showing this person behind that house that's supposed to be behind the house, because just that the house itself just disappears? And it's utter nonsense. But you also made another good point. Well, have you ever seen disappearing actions of sideways, or to the side of a building, where the building disappears and the person appears to the side? No, if something's obstructed, it doesn't matter what refraction does. It doesn't remove that obstruction. And
Yeah.
that idea that this refraction just works in a special way to just remove the curvature, it's a stupid faith, like that's just utter nonsense. Can't be proven, never been done. I keep saying that on my channel. If you believe in this, then take out something that's supposed, like a 4-foot wall or whatever, and put something, behind that's 3 miles away, that's also 4 feet, that should be obstructed, and now show that wall disappear. Show it. You should be able to show 1,000 examples. Since I have so many examples of the globe disappearing, well, show me a wall disappear, show me a building disappear, show me a hill disappear. It never happens. And so that's what's one of those.
Now, don't they claim because the atmosphere is getting thinner as you go up, that it's refracting, it only refracts upwards? I'm just kind of trying to steelman their argument, right? It would only refract up through that density layer. But if you think about it, these lights are a foot off the ground, or whatever. I think they're a foot off the ground, right? And if they're refracting up, that refraction is following the Earth curve. So it's not going through those density layers. It's staying in the same layer. So why wouldn't it refract sideways? Why wouldn't it refract diagonally? How come there wouldn't be a rainbow of those lights in all directions? Right.
And you've seen the people where they show the boats that supposedly are flying up in the air due to refraction. And I that one just, it's just dumbfounding to me that smart people, you can find it on all these websites of these boats that are supposedly flying above the Earth due to a superior mirage,
Right.
And you're like, are you that stupid that you can't see the water line behind it? That you can't see that it's just, mirroring the sky and creates the illusion of the boat flying? And it just shocks me that they get away with this nonsense. Like, that
Right.
is just one of the stupidest explanations. Yeah, exactly. You can
Right.
see, well, that one's kind of hard to see,
Well,
but you
hold
can
on,
actually
hold
still
on, hold
see it.
on, hold on, hold on. This is, they say this is floating. I see this all the time when I'm on the water. This is a wind line right here. There's ripply water here and smooth water there. So if I change the contrast, I'll add the actual horizon in. Now you can see it's just sitting on the water. And if you look around the boat, you can even see the reflection in the water. And is there another one? Yeah. Let's say I put land over there. Now do you really see it? This is just a wind line. It's a wind
Yeah.
line. It's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just hilarious to me that
Yeah.
so many people have used that argument, and it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Right.
And the other one I find funny is the ghost boats. I don't know if you've seen those where it's a inferior mirage of a distance boat, and it looks like something's floating in the air,
Yeah.
and it's just an inferior mirage. I mean, Wide Awake has dozens of videos of just those things happening, and yet again, it's like the mysterious floating boat, and it's like, I mean, it's like these are serious conversations that they have at schools or something, because this is just absolutely asinine.
Yeah. This one,
But
don't you think all these people would be going, oh my God, look,
oh yeah,
a floating ship. But if you just crank up the contrast, the ship is sitting on the water. You just see a
yeah.
vanilla sky, you know, and you can't tell where the horizon is. And so we're going to get into the horizon, right? What do flat earthers say about the horizon? The horizon always
Always rise to eye level.
right. That's false. It always appears to rise to eye level. But some people say, well, the horizon's always below your head if you're looking out over perfectly smooth water. But I disagree. I say the horizon is always thousands of feet above your eye level. Always.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
So, and there's two different horizons. There's the terrestrial horizon and the celestial horizon, right? So, where I have that saved. All right, right here. So, and you may have seen this, and a lot of you watching probably have seen me go over this, but I'm going to go over it with Ben real quick. Where is it? So, give me a second. All right. So, first question here. This is just. You see, we got a guy standing on a pier. We got the water. We got the boat. We got the sun. Right. So, your life experiences tells you that the pier is higher than the water. Right.
Yes.
All right, because otherwise the water would be on the pier. Now this is put together. I built this, but I built this to trick you. The person is standing on the pier, the boat is on the water, the sun is above the boat, the sun's above the clouds. These are things that life experiences tells you. Where's the skyscraper? Can you see the skyscraper? There's a 50-story building prominently shown in this image.
Oh.
So we're actually in New York City looking up at the sun, and it's 12 o'clock noon, right? But
Mm-hmm.
but so unless you can touch it and measure it and know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're looking at. You're interpreting what you're looking at. So if the sun is there at noon and at 1 o'clock it's there, the question I have to you is the sun below the horizon or beyond the building?
Just beyond the building.
Just beyond the building. Very good. So here's our perspective grid, and here's our guy. This is his eye level, and we put a mountain in front of him. Let's say the top of the mountain is 3,000 feet above him. Flat or globe, doesn't matter. The mountain is 3,000 feet above him. The sun moves away below the horizon or beyond the mountain. Simple.
Beyond the mountain.
Beyond the mountain, just like it went beyond the building. So if we move him backwards, like 25 miles, the top of that mountain will look like it's at his eye level. Globe or flat, that mountain is still 3,000 feet. If it's a globe, 2,980 feet, whatever the curvature is at that distance, right? Right. So it's still above his eye level. So when the sun goes away, does it go below the horizon or beyond the mountain?
Just beyond the mountain.
So that's your terrestrial horizon that looks like it's at your eye level. It's 3,000 feet above your eye level. But now if we add clouds in there, what are the clouds doing? Are they going down or are they just going to the vanishing horizontal eye zone? And the sun goes beyond it again. So the sun is a terrestrial object. The sky, the clouds and the air, if there was no clouds, the air becomes opaque over distance. Just like if you and I are standing looking at each other, I had a perfect piece of glass, you couldn't even see the glass. But if I had 10 pieces of glass, it'd be a little harder to see through. If I had 100 pieces of glass, we couldn't see each other, right? And at a point, light won't even go through that. And that's what the atmosphere does. So now this line here, it's not 3,000 feet above your eyes. It's plus the height of the clouds. That might be another 10,000 feet above your eye level. So did the sun go below anything, or did it go beyond something that's 10,000 feet over your eyes?
Yeah, beyond something that's 10,000 feet over your,
right.
10,000 feet over you.
So no matter how many times you show this to a dishonest glober, right? They'll say the sun could never do that, and here the camera's obviously below the table. And flat earthers should say no, it's even with the table. And then they'd zoom in. When you zoom in, you're opening up the iris, and you could argue that as the iris gets bigger, it can see over the table when you zoom in, right? And bring the coin back in, right? And that's okay. I accept that argument. But if you're below the table, it'll disappear just like this. And this line here is your horizon. I say that's 10,000 feet above your eye level, not at eye level. But the horizon always appears to be at eye level.
Oh, that's a fair argument.
There you go. Would I win in court with that one?
I'd like to know that one, but
all right. So
I would let you win.
Of course, you're biased, though. You're biased. I need to get a Globe lawyer. All right, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but that's what we're doing. We're interrupting each other.
No, that's fine. And so we covered Grota 1, but the next one that I really like was I don't know if you recall this one. This is the Dr. John Dee's wind farm observations.
Absolutely, that's one of my favorite. Tell us about it.
Well, anyway, in that case, Dr. John Dee brought his camera into the water so he can, oh, there you go. He's just 3.5 feet above the water, but he's looking at these wind farms like you have there up to 11.2 miles. Now the distance to the horizon at 3.5 feet above the water, what would that be? It's like
3.5 feet. It's like
2 miles, maybe.
Yeah, it's under. I mean, 6 feet is 3 miles, so it's like 2 miles, somewhere around 2 miles.
Yeah, 2 miles is where that geometric globe horizon should be. And so again, this is the idea: is there's not even a centimeter of an alleged curvature there up to 11 miles. They can't say there's any curvature there because the horizon line is beyond that, which is, where we get that black swan idea, is because the horizon is beyond that 11.2 miles. You can't even say there's a centimeter of curvature. If there's not a centimeter of curvature at 11.2 miles, there's no curvature anywhere. And that's, that's one of my favorite tests, because 8.2 miles to 11.2 miles, the curvature should be hiding more and more and more of those wind farms. And the wind farms should be dipping further and further below the curvature of the Earth. But instead, they rise up prospectively, and obviously there's no Earth bulge.
But the Glober argument and the newbie that sees the Glober argument will see a wind farm, and the bottom half of the blades are disappearing. And that's explained in those videos, right? And if you're looking for those videos, I believe they're in the Taboo section, but also on the app. If you go to the "We Can See Too Far" panel right here, so let me just click that, and you scroll down. Oops, rid of that. And we have all of those videos are right here. All the wind farm videos are there, and you can also just search wind turbine, and it'll come right up. So there you go.
Awesome. But, it does raise some of the issues, like, looking across to Chicago. That's one of the common examples. And they say, hey, look at those buildings. They're being obstructed. There are two major tricks that they employ. One is the inferior mirage. It always creates the illusion that there's a big hump of curvature, because it causes the bottoms of objects to disappear so they can't see them. And that's one of those first tests. I didn't actually include it in my latest video because I lost that one. But when my wife went, actually, she carried a spotlight into an inferior mirage, and it just absolutely blocks all light that comes out of that. And so they'll take a picture of that and say, "Oh, look, there's the curvature of the Earth," and it's like, "Oh, come on, that's an inferior mirage." The other big one, like I think you're showing there, are waves, swells. Those
Right.
waves are,
Right.
they'll take a picture of on a windy, wavy day and go, "Oh, look, you can't see those buildings." Well, that's because the waves in the background, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 feet tall, are blocking your view of the bottoms of those buildings.
And on a day like this, right, without the sun being right there, backlighting the buildings, you say, well, the cloud, the air is clear, but the sky is cloudy, and you can see where the sky meets the earth, and that's Earth curvature. That's what you believe. Like when I first was getting into flat Earth, and I said, okay, I got to do this test to see if I can see too far. I bought my P900. I got a camera. I went down to the beach and check this out. I don't think there's been a more perfect day since then. It was dead calm, zero humidity. It was kind of chilly. It was, I mean, I'm talking like creepy dead calm. And I was able to zoom in and see a buoy over 10 miles away. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so, but if I had gone down and it was a day like this, I would have zoomed. I'm like, I can't see crap. I wonder if I'd be here today. Like that might have just like, yeah, I can't see the buoy that I'm looking for.
I have to say it's providential, because the same thing happened to me. I bought the P900 because I'm going to test it. And so I went
Right.
out to Wheeler Bay. I'll have that video here shortly. But Wheeler Bay is 6.3 miles away. All right, that was my absolute first test. Bring it down, and I actually went to that reservoir because my brother said, he was adamant, I saw the curvature of the Earth over that reservoir. I was like, okay, so let's go ahead and test it right there. And I watched my wife take the mirror and place it into the water. And
Yeah, I remember that.
since then I've been back there. I went back there many times, and I filmed it in, on my other channels that got deleted. I filmed it where it was the inferior mirage created this illusion that you couldn't see that far, or it's just so opaque that you couldn't see the other side or something like that. And if I would have been there on my first test to go film, and I saw that inferior mirage before I knew better, I would have totally who knows? Like you said, maybe I wouldn't be here because I've been, oh well, I'm not seeing too far. You can't see the other shoreline.
The video you're talking about is one of the videos in this list here.
I don't think it's so. No, I don't think it's in there.
You don't think it's the one with your wife?
No.
Okay,
No,
or maybe it was a mirror flash with your wife. I
It
forget.
was a mirror flash. It was a
Okay,
mirror flash at 6.3 miles, but I don't
I've
think it's in there.
all right. I saw it somewhere.
But it is in the new video that I just
All right,
sent to you.
awesome. That new video will be right here when it comes out.
Okay.
Cool. All right, continue.
But like you, I have to say it's almost providential that I didn't show up on a day with their high miraging. And that happened to me twice, where the first test, then my second test, again, I saw seven, my wife put a spotlight this time into the water, and that was 7.3 miles. And again, it was, perfect, good conditions for seeing. Then all of a sudden I started going back in, like May and June and July, and I couldn't see anything. Is that because of once it starts warming up, that the inferior miraging gets worse and worse, and you'd show up different times of the day, like in the middle of the day, or even in the morning, it'd be even worse, where the miraging's much worse. And what drove me crazy is like where you see the dishonesty of these globe believers is where they'd say like, well, that's where the curvature is. You're like, no, that's an inferior mirage. How can you even claim otherwise? It's you can see it with your own eyes.
So, if we live on a globe, there is a physical limit to how far we can see on the clearest of days. Even if you removed all of the atmosphere and made it 100% clear, you can't see farther than the physical limitations of the ball, right? That's right. Globers and flat earthers will agree with that. On a globe, if the atmosphere or the water conditions are anything but perfect, it could only shorten your distance to the apparent horizon. It can't lengthen it, right?
Yeah.
But on a flat Earth, the horizon's apparent. It's completely weather related, and it changes every day. And many of those observations are far beyond the physical limitations of a ball 24,901 miles around, right? And whenever we do our calculations, I always go way in favor of the globe. I was like, you know what? We're gonna take off an extra 10 feet just to give the globe a little extra because we can give them 50% advantage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can handicap them anyway.
But I don't even want to like, a lot of people will give, well, this is the standard refraction calculation. I refuse to do that because that has not been proven to be actually accurate in whatsoever. That the idea that just a little bit of the curvature is disappearing. No, it can't. I refuse to believe until it's proven to me that anything blocking something else in a long distance can just disappear and show that object behind it unaffected. And
Yeah.
so that's why you'll ever see on my videos, I never share standard refraction because that is absolute lie.
The only argument that they have about that is, oh, you flat earthers say nothing can ever come behind the curve. So then they take a ball and they have a little orange line over beyond the horizon and they pour liquid nitrogen on it. And all of a sudden, for a split second, excuse me, I can't even say the words. You can see the line. They're like, look, there it is. It's coming up from behind the curve. I'm like, okay, where are they pouring liquid nitrogen on the earth? All right. Well, show me that.
Yeah. And what they're actually creating is just like in my opinion, they're just creating is what do you call it? A magnifying glass on top of where the bulge or whatever, so that it can show something beyond it. It's kind of similar to that when that weatherman, when they're trying to, it's the one that said, what you're seeing here is a mirage, and they did a subsequent video and they put the magnifying glass on the table and showed how it kind of hid him, but that's absolutely not how an atmosphere works, where there's a giant magnifying glass right on top of the pinnacle of the curvature that just absolutely shows the objects behind it. But it's just all so utter nonsense when you hear that stuff, and you realize that this is just a stupid faith that they have. Like anything, for me, it's much more plausible to say, well, God designed the earth and, the moon, the sun, and how he does it, I don't understand. But for them, it's like, refraction did it, or gravity did it. And that's why, I don't know if you ever saw that video of mine where it's like the wizard did it, where it shows all these objects that are behind the curvature of the earth. And, the Simpsons lays saying, oh, wizard did it. It's just absolutely so stupid. For me, it's so dumb. I don't even understand how logical people can actually see that.
Yeah. All right.
And as we were talking, I was just thinking about it, and 8 inches per mile squared. I did want to talk about that because that's actually one of my first flat Earth fact video was 8 inches per mile squared. That is one of those other ones where I was like, when I first started my investigation, it's like, okay, so what is the actual calculation? Because Robotham wrote in his book that it was 8 inches per mile squared, and you would get all I got all these globe propagandists on the website saying, wait a second, that's not the correct formula. That's not the correct formula. 8 inches per mile squared. I'm like, okay, so give me the correct formula and show me the difference between a 10-mile observation using 8 inches per mile squared and then your correct formula. And they spend forever going over, giving this huge, long, lengthy mathematical equations to come up with what the equation should be. And it was a difference of like a centimeter over 10 miles. It was
I think that the 8 inches per mile squared actually gives the globe the benefit of the doubt. It gives it a little extra.
It's just so funny to me. It's like, this is such an accurate thing. It's like getting after people who use 3.14 for pi. It's an approximation, but it's valid up to 1,000 miles. And so you get all these.
But Ben, at 1,000, it's showing less curvature than there actually is than the other formula.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but it's insignificant. But here's the thing: you believe in the Pythagorean theorem? Well, believe or not, it's the way it is, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if we look at the Earth, we say, okay, not to scale, people. 100 miles out, that would be the drop, right? And so we say, okay, here's the radius of the Earth, distance of 100 miles, and it comes out to 15 million feet, or is that what it is? That's squared, divided out, and the whole thing comes out to exactly 1.2615 miles, right? Of drop at that. So that is the curvature. That is what 8 inches per mile squared comes out to. So it's using the Pythagorean theorem. All right. You don't have to go beyond 100 miles. We just proved that it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
6,660 feet. All right. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, and I also and I've shown it with AutoCAD. I actually have an AutoCAD calculator where I use that sometimes for more of the complex calculations and things like that. But even then, but they'll say, well, that's a formula of a parabola. You know, they keep saying it, parabola, and it's like, are you guys stupid? Because we're talking about the curvature drop. Any calculation is going to fall apart once you get one fourth of a sphere, anyways.
Yep.
So to even sit there and make there is no formula that works beyond the one fourth of a sphere because the drop starts falling, below your feet. So that doesn't make any application there. But anyway, that's one of my other pet peeves that I saw is seeing all the videos against me saying 8 inches per mile squared is a formula for parabola. Like they're saying something clever. Like when you're in court and stuff like that, you can see when the other side is lying. It's because they'll put out stuff that's just nonsensical, but that may try to make it sound like it's such an important issue or something like that, but it has really no relevance to the actual discussion. And so it's just one of those clever techniques that you see. And that's one of the other things that always bothered me when I was investigating is they engage in techniques and stratagem and trying to weasel their way into trying to trick you into believing in the globe. And that's, it's always just bothered me. It's like, they're not interested in truth. I mean, at the very least, if someone wants to say that they don't, that if they were willing to admit that the moon landings were fake, if they're willing to admit that, then I'll listen to them. But if they can't see that the astronauts is dangling from a wire, if they can't see the backdrops are obvious, 1960s movie backdrops, if they can't see the lunar lander that looks like absolute, a high school, drama club coming up with the best spaceship that they could come up with. I mean, if they can't see that, then it's like, I'm sorry, but you're not going to see the flat Earth because you're so caught up in. Again, they were able to pack that in the lunar lander with 1960s batteries and did that and put it in the trunk or something of the lunar lander when it wasn't even designed to hold this vehicle. And again,
right. And these are, you zoom in, these are like crappy beach chairs. I would never even sit on these chairs at the beach. They're so uncomfortable. And I guess in space, it's you only have 1/6 your weight, so maybe they're comfortable in space. You got your spray painted umbrella, and I mean the duct tape and everything. $38 million in 1970, but without inflation, you can get this bad boy today for 37 million. Okay. I mean, Jaron actually did a video on satellites. He's like, a satellite costs $50 million. The James Webb cost 10 billion or 11 billion or something, right? And then he compares it to like this beautiful house in Colorado, like a $900,000 house, pool and hot tubs and just marble count, just a big, beautiful mansion, right? And you can buy 11,000 of those houses for the cost of one satellite. Doesn't make any sense.
No, especially when the balloons can accomplish the same thing.
Right. So, all right, continue.
But that does bring me to one of my next proofs of the top 10 proofs of the flat Earth, and that is the fake moon landings. It's now been almost 52 years since man was last on the moon, and for me, just that one fact, 52 years since man was last on the moon, and no one's been there since, and that one fact, automatically any reasonable person should be skeptical. To me, it shifts the burden of persuasion. They absolutely need to now prove, beyond, any reasonable doubt that the moon landings took place, because 52 years, come on, it's the only time in the history where technology has gotten worse or whatever, that they can't actually, they threw away the technology and they can't replace this technology of especially, like with the blast off with the Apollo 17 lander there.
Yeah.
And they're able to follow that in real time as it tilts, the camera tilts up and follows that in real time.
Worse than that. If you've ever been on a boat, say you're on like a 23-foot boat, right? Just a nice boat, you're chilling out and it's floating in perfectly calm water, no air movement, no tide movement, and the boat's staying pretty still. If you get up and move the slightest bit, the boat is going to move, even though the water has resistance. Okay, the water has a little bit of resistance, right? Pushing through water versus pushing through air, more resistance in the water. In space, there's no resistance. You have two grown men wearing diapers, right? They're getting taken, they're taking off, right? Now, meanwhile, there's another guy in an orbiter that's orbiting. You know how fast the orbiter is going around the moon? Is it 2,000
Was
miles
it
an hour?
250? Yeah, extraordinary amount.
Right.
But I thought it was
So,
actually 4,000 miles per hour. But
okay, whatever the number is, it's ridiculous. I don't care if it's going 10 miles an hour. They're going to time it. They're going to time it so it goes, and they just come and they meet, right? And they don't slam into each other. And these guys are moving around, right? And then you talked about who filmed that. How did it tilt up? And how did we get the film? Well, they had secret, transmitters back then. They didn't want us to know they had digital, right? And how do they do that? And then I don't know if I got this from you, but this is the guy in orbit, right? So he's got these paper, he's like looking at stuff, and then he floats it in the air because people love to see things floating. Who's panning the camera up? Same thing. He's alone. Who's panning the camera up?
I haven't seen that one.
The camera's panning up. He's alone in orbit, wearing a diaper. Okay, alone in orbit.
He's supposedly in the command module. Is that right?
Yeah, there's three astronauts. Two of them went down to the moon to play golf and drive a dune buggy, and and put up the flag. And he is the guy left alone. And they got to just look. That's how they prove they're in space, by floating things. Okay,
and that's all they still do.
I'm guessing that was filmed on a whole bunch of takes on a zero-G plane. Easily done.
Yeah.
Right. He looks like he's about to throw up, to be honest. Like, how many times more do we have to do this before we get it right? And who's panning the camera up?
Yeah.
Right. So people ask me all the time, Dave, what's your best proof that there's no moon landing? What's your best proof that the earth is flat? Every single one of them is. Every single one. All you need is one. Right. This alone disproves the moon landing.
Yep.
Every single proof. You only need one. Like, if someone says your wife is cheating on you, and you see the proof that she was cheating with one guy, do you need to see her cheating with 50 other guys to understand that your wife's cheating
but
on you?
But she didn't cheat with that guy across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I love that one. I'll have to get more information on that one. But for me, when you can see the wires, I have that video where you can actually see the wires. Yeah, it's shifting in front of them, and they're in front of a 1960s movie backdrop. Come on, guys! One wire, it's it. It's over. They're lying, and and that's what I always try to cover. Is like, what are the implications if the moon landings were fake? Which they most assuredly were. If the moon landings were fake, what does that tell us about the world we live in? What does that tell us about our government? What does that tell us about international relations? What does that tell us about academia? What does that tell us about our enforcement agencies? All of that stuff.
Everything.
You start to and once you can reach that point that they lied, that there's this big lie, the big lies are so possible.
That's
one of my favorite. The Wire
Daily. The Wire. Oh, that's just an artifact. I don't know. It's like The Wire.
One wire destroys it all. In outer space, you now presume it's fake just as much as you're in a courtroom and somebody obviously gets caught in a lie. Their testimony is now shambles. Everything else that they say, even if it has some logic to it or something like that, you now presume that they're lying to you. And that's what the moon landings does, is it shifts that persuasion where you now presume that they're lying about everything. NASA is a scam agency. They're liars. I think it is Gerald White or something. They did a bunch of moon landing debunking videos or something like that, but he's a big globe believer. And I always try to say to him, it's like, what do you actually believe that they, in 1972, that they decided to, okay, that's it for the faking. Now let's do the real stuff. Really? That's just that it doesn't pass the smell test. They fake those. They're going to continue the faking. And we've shown that continued faking with so many examples. One of my favorite is just like the coffee. You ever remember the Don Pettit's drinking from the coffee and the color separates from the bag and leaves a clear bag. And so the Glober
excuse for that is it wasn't coffee, it was tape. I don't care what it was. It separated from the bag.
Yeah, but it really was coffee, but it did separate from the bag and left.
So whether it was brown tape or coffee, it's separated from the bag, right?
That can't happen in reality. No glitch does that. It doesn't remove colors and present a clear thing. If you see a car glitching on the street, in a video on a street, it's not going to remove the color of the car and leave a clear car there. That doesn't happen.
Are you sure? Have you proved? Have you tested that?
I got to prove that one. But I love the one where that I've shared it a lot, but with that cosmonaut swimming in the water, where you can see the particles of the water, where he moves his hand and the particles follow his hand, and anyone can tell you that's how water reacts when you're swimming in it. And also, where I had a show on the one video where they're doing a spacewalk, and on one of the screens actually shows them with divers at the exact same time. I mean, we've shown so much evidence they're absolutely faking space. Now, what is the ISS? I don't know. Drone, Project Bluebeam. I don't know. Do you have an opinion? Have you made
I've seen the ISS, like tracker. It's like, oh, there it is, and it crosses over. Now it took 8 minutes to cross the sky, 17,500 miles an hour. So when it's over me, I can see it for another 3.5, 4 minutes. It's in California. How can I see it? How could it should be in California already? Forget it being 250 miles over me, which would be impossible to see because you can't see a 747 at 10 miles high, right? And so not only is it that high above me, it's in California. It's do the math: 17,500 miles times 4 minutes, right? It's like, but you can see it the whole time, right? The Globers like saying, well, if the Earth was flat, your sun would get smaller and bigger as it crosses over you. Well, how about your stupid space station? It's the same size from horizon to horizon. Okay. And
I would love to do it. Yeah, you got to show me some of those calculations from horizon to horizon if you're watching that. How far did it go?
I mean, you can't
what's the
say,
size diminish?
When you see it on the horizon, you really can't say how far it is from you. But when you see it at your zenith, you can say it's directly over you. So now every second is X number of miles away from you. So if I can see it for 4 more minutes, so 17,000 miles an hour divided by 4 minutes, that's thousands of miles. Okay. I mean, it's you cannot see it. Oh, well, it's space, David. The light that's reflecting off of it. Oh, so the sun is reflecting it to my eyes the whole time. Right. And it's not like if the sun,
the bulbs didn't block it.
You and your wife were just 100 feet apart on a beach, and I had a mirror or a space station. I'm holding it and I'm reflecting the sun to your eyes. Your wife isn't going to see it at the same time. You're only going to see it. Yeah. Unless the space station is like one of those reflecting mirrors that reflects in all different directions at the same time. Come on. Come on. You remember this guy in the space?
Oh, yeah, that's what makes.
And then if you look at this guy, there's another picture from here. I think I have it right here. This is another picture from another mission. You can't even tell the difference. It's the exact same guy in the exact same position. You didn't even tell I just changed the picture, right? All right, so I'm going to change it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Did you see it? It's a different picture.
Yeah.
It's a different picture. 1, 2, 3. Same guy, same position. And you have to believe that.
I have to worry about the people who still believe in outer space.
And I sent you a video this morning. Dustin from Smarter Every Day, the space nerd guy. He actually got to interview 2 astronauts, Don Pettit. Oh my God. Guy and another guy in the cupola for like a half an hour. And at the beginning, they had to figure out the delay. And then within a minute, they forgot about the delay. Real time communication. Okay. So, the delay, 250 miles an hour away. Wait, how come I have a delay when I talk to somebody in China? It's a little farther than 250 miles. So Dustin at one point asked them, he says, can you show me how you're not holding on to anything right now? How are you balancing the camera? And he's like, oh, we're holding on our feet. He goes, can you pan the camera down so I can see your feet? He goes, oh, no, we can't do that right now because there's guys working out below us, bench pressing. What?
Oh, my goodness.
And he goes, and I can't show you. I can't point the camera down there. Okay? And there's so many. Everyone check out Smarter Every Day. He just had a conversation. There's so many cringe moments in that video. I just wonder, is he really that much of a nerd, or is he playing the game. I don't have an
I
answer.
have to say, I have to say that I believe he's playing the game.
Okay.
I hate to say it,
Yeah, but
but go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I think I'm with you, but that could just be because we can't imagine anybody being that. I'll say it's stupid, right?
But no, you can see that it's been pre-recorded because they show
Oh,
other photos and
they
stuff while they're
clip other
doing it.
stuff in there, yeah. Or
Yeah,
maybe
so
they
it's been
just took it and made
pre-recorded.
it better by putting in other clips. I I don't know. I think that he just looks like a mind controlled person to me. But yeah, who am I? I'm just flat Earth Dave. Give me a break.
What are your opinions of all the endless trolls that we have that are constantly attacking us, following us, dedicate entire video channels to sitting there and calling us names?
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I
Keep
have
going.
to say, I think half of them are paid to do it. That,
I
but
I
maybe the other half are just blinded by, I don't know, dark forces. In
no,
my opinion, they're just so absolutely something's wrong up there.
I say paid or possessed is the same thing. And I think we're in a spiritual war, and the way I see this world is we're having we're eternal souls and we're having this experience here in God's realm and that we are part of God. God is within us. And people lose control of their soul and evil spirits get inside of them. I believe my default position on these trolls is they've got an evil spirit in them animating their body that has taken over their soul. They've sold their soul, if you will. Okay. Or given relinquished control of their body. And souls are desperate. Listen, souls are this is my opinion. This is just me talking, right?
Yep.
Souls are the most important thing in the world. We live in a soul system. Okay. We live in a soul system. This is a system that God created for our souls to have experiences. Sounds cool, right? Sounds pretty good. It's
Mm-hmm.
biblical. It all goes together. So God created this world for our souls to have an experience in this soul system. And those that have lost their soul are desperate to get souls, to get control of a soul. So they come after us. And when we're over the target, we get the most amount of flack. And and this is an energetic war. So if you give them energy, even if you debate them and destroy them, you're giving them energy, right? I'm all for, I don't even see them anymore. I've gotten to the point where even though they're coming after me, people send them to me. Yeah, I do see it, but I don't watch it. I don't give it any energy. And I just do the best that I can to spread the word and wake up the world.
No, I agree, and that kind of I you and I talked via email. We first heard about the final the
Uh,
TFE, the
yeah.
flat Earth final experiment. But anyway, you and I both talked, and when I initially got an email from what's his name,
Will
Doofus,
Duffy. Will Doofy.
Duffy.
Will Doofy.
Anyway, when I first got that email from Duffy, he said like he had this final experiment to finally to solve the flat Earth, and I said, well, if you're an honest person and you're really dedicated to truth, I wish you all the best. But I said, this stinks. This absolutely stinks from the beginning. That it sounds like you're a propagandist and you're attempting to do something that's going to be just about hiding the truth. And it turns out that Will Duffy really is a propagandist. I mean, he admitted on the camera that he was going to try to put an end to the flat Earth, and then he shows up on all these channels and starts putting on this show that he's objective, just a good guy, and he's really just investigating, doesn't know anything about the flat Earth. He was a freaking propagandist at one time. He even say he's going to put an end to the flat Earth. He can't go around and now claim that he's objective observer, just trying to get to the truth of it all. And to me, like even participating, giving him time, giving him, I hate to say it, but giving him all these videos, giving him all these interviews, all that stuff, I don't like it. It's giving them, more power over us.
So you're good. Finish. Sorry. Go ahead.
In the end, let's say, there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Antarctica is an interesting issue for me because, I've talked a lot about Antarctica and they have faked the 24-hour sun in Antarctica many times. Are they going to see a 24-hour sun? I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'd like to see the evidence of it, but this is where I disagree with all those other ones all those people who I say, even if there's a 24-hour sun, yes, that's very fascinating fact. But that video there is actually how I think the sky works. And
It could, it could, it could. But we don't know what the southern sky does. We all are trying to figure it out, and we don't know. That's okay not to know. But here's the thing. I don't think there's there's a 24-hour sun. However, at this time of year, when they go, there could be. They also could have technology that could fake it, right? If you think about what's in Antarctica, I think the fallen angels live in Antarctica. I don't know, right? I think that all of the technology that we get from our computer chips to everything else comes from the outer lands, right? This is just me. I'm just, so the technology, like in 1970, Ben, if I said, you can be walking down the beach on vacation, hold a piece of glass in your hand and have a 4K video conversation with somebody in China, United States, Thailand, and New Zealand at the same time for free, what would you have said?
I say it's a lie.
You're out of your mind. That could never happen. So I think that the gap from there to where we are now is far larger to what technology they could have out there. But with that said, you don't have to believe anything. It's not about believing anything. All of your tests, all the stuff we put together have measured the Earth and shown that there is no curvature, no axial rotation. If they see the sun, and this is also on the globe side, not really fair, but it's not about fair. It's about reality. If the sun sets, the globe model has no explanation for it. And therefore the globe is disproven. If the sun doesn't set, that matches the globe, but it doesn't rule out flat Earth because none of the measurements change. It just tells us we don't understand the southern sky, period.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so for someone to say, oh, well, if there's a circling sun down there, then I'm going to have to go to the globe. Wait a minute. So you're going to go from flat Earth to a space ball with a gas ball of helium and hydrogen in a vacuum that's a nuclear furnace that holds on to Pluto with its gravity from the helium and hydrogen, and it goes like a perfect clock, right? You have to believe all of that Narnia nonsense to say that it matches the Narnia globe model, right? I can make things match Narnia, but Narnia doesn't exist. It's impossible, right? I don't know if you've seen my idea for the real final experiment that'll never happen, right? You got Santiago, and you have ignore the red line, and you have Australia, right? You with me? Get two airplanes, fly to Antarctica, prove we're in Antarctica. That can be done easily, right? And then we film them. You and I are on there, scientists, professors, big planes. So we get everybody on there. And if the Earth is the size they say it is, Antarctica is 10,000 miles around, whatever. It'll take about 10 hours to get for both planes to meet over here. Now, if they both meet over there in 10 hours, that matches the globe model. But if they have to go around this way, it's going to take 68 hours. There's a wide margin of difference. But Ben, if it goes over here, what do you say? If that happens, 5 hours, what do you say?
Well, I would say that would be a proof of that it's a if it happened in a short amount of time, it'd have to be proof that it's a continent.
There you go.
It's still possible that there's an Antarctica. Yeah.
Bingo. So let's say we have bases here, here, and here. You know what's funny? People from this base never come to visit the people from this base. They never travel one base to the other.
Yeah.
Right? And so to make it a final experiment, you now have to take these two planes that met over here and say, we're going to go to Australia, and you can have, I don't know, give them 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, because they're really like 80 hours away from, from getting back. So let's have a reasonable flight to Australia. It'll never happen because we don't live on a globe, but that's the final experiment, in my opinion.
Yeah. For me, crossing the alleged geographic South Pole from one end, from South America all the way to Australia.
That's the same thing. I did the same thing, but I did it with a stop.
Put us all on the put a few of us on the airplane. It costs you, what, $30,000 from NASA to go ahead and just sponsor that chartered flight. Put
Yep.
us on the airplane where we have instruments, accelerometers, everything that we want to bring on that airplane,
Yep.
and to prove that we're not changing the directions that would be required for them to be, circling around the outer edge of the Earth. Give us that opportunity. That would be a fascinating test. And that brings me to one of the, the other top proofs for the flat Earth is Antarctica. The fact that they've closed off all independent travel below the 60th south parallel, that they don't allow that independent investigation, that they don't allow flights from like over the alleged geographic South Pole. And the fact that there is no north-south circumnavigation, to me, is a huge one for the flat Earth, and confirms the idea that I think that the AE map is fairly close. I'm not, I think the distances are off and things like that, but I think it's pretty close. And so, but that is kind of the format of what our Earth does look like, in my opinion.
Well, so the circling sun, biblically, the sun goes around its circuit. We've seen millions of people, or not millions, I don't know, lots of people, and you can book a trip in June and watch the circling sun in the north. That doesn't prove either. It works on both, right? And again, looking at the lights in the sky don't prove anything. But like right now, if I knew somebody that lived out here in Argentina or whatever, like if I knew someone that lived right on the sun, I can call them and say, what time is it and where is the sun? And they would tell me it's noon. And the sun is right above them. And I've done it. When it was over here, I've called my friend in Sydney and I said, what time is it and where's the sun? And it was like almost right above them because it was a little bit on, out inside of Capricorn. And it was noon. And I also did it. I was actually on a radio show in Johannesburg and we were talking about the app and I was looking right at it. And I was like, I was trying to locate where he was on the map. I was like, you're right under the sun. He goes, oh, yeah, the sun's right above us right now. It's like, what time is it? He's like, it's, 12:01. I'm like, so there is something to this map.
Yeah. And one of the other things I want to point out is this is a thought that I had that I haven't heard anyone else discuss is when I began my investigation of the flat Earth, it was one of those evidences I listed on the globe side is the fact that the daylight time frames kind of match from, the north of the equator to the south of the equator. And so is it possible that those daytime increases when you go from the north to the south, when, to different seasons, I'm probably being a little confusing there, but if they match, the northern winter, the northern summer matches the southern summer, then is it possible that there's a 24-hour sun there in Antarctica? And I would say yes. But now then when you think about it, okay, so I would say that that's, globe evidence if you're to put it on that one side. But when you think about it has to be that way. You can't have, otherwise what would happen is the southern areas would get too cold because the sun's not traveling around them enough. And so whatever the design of our creator, he created in a way that the southern latitudes have to have as much daylight as well as the northern latitudes, which I just hadn't thought about it, but it has to be that way, that there has to be that increase in daylight for the southern latitudes, or so it would just everything would have become ice the further out you go, because there wouldn't have been enough time for sunlight. And so I try to keep an open mind and stuff. But again, for me, and this brings me to the next proof for me for the flat Earth, is sunsets. And the fact that if we lived on a globe, every sunset, every sunrise would produce an upward bulge shadow that would be cast across the sky.
I always talk about that. It's hard for a non-flat earthers to visualize that because they weren't taught how to think like that.
And I love that fact because it's every sunrise, and I love to, I go hiking every morning, so I'm up in the mountains, and I love to see the sunrise and things like that. And I watch for it. Is there a bold shadow that's drifting across the sky? There's no such thing, but you can see the mountain shadows for 20 miles, 20, 30 miles out, distinct shadows, but the bulge does not produce a shadow that should be an upward shadow as the sun is angled below your feet. And that fact, it demolishes any idea of, the globe is because the sun does not set below our feet. That's it. That's the end.
Yeah. You don't see the shadows rip up or rip down sunrise or sunset. You just see them kind of fade in and fade out. Right. And this is one of on that same line. You've seen my sun fade out video.
Oh, one of my favorites.
So the Globers say use a solar filter. When I use a solar filter, you can't see the sun. And And so, but here's and it's out of focus. I don't care, right? It's the sun fade out isn't what matters. It's the fact that it stopped moving down, right?
Yeah.
It sat there for 10 minutes. If the earth is spinning, the sun should just keep on going until it's gone.
Perfectly uniform, but
But
it stalls every
it
time at the
stops
horizon.
there. Now, and as I say, my friends or over here at the beach saw the sunset from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier because their horizon was thousands of feet over their head. Actually, their horizon was actually a tree line on land that was about 8 miles from them, right? And so the tops of those trees look like they're at eye level, but they're really they're 200 feet above their eye level, okay? And the sun just goes, I always say it just goes beyond. It's just gone, and so once you understand perspective, you can start to understand what this place is.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that maybe that we don't understand quite what the sun is and how it works above us. I think it's like
Exactly.
Shane St. Pierre and Space Odyssey. I don't know if you've seen their models on
Of course.
how the sky works. Love it. That's kind of where I'm at. Is how it all works up in the sky. And anyway, that's where I'm at.
I mean,
model.
I don't think anyone knows how the sun works. I think it's might be beyond our understanding. But one thing we know for sure: helium and hydrogen that defy gravity and violently fill the available space. Wait, Ben? What's the calculation? How much helium and hydrogen do you need in space before it collapses and creates a nuclear furnace? How much?
Yeah, I don't know.
The answer is a lot.
Interesting.
A lot.
I don't know.
No, there's no amounts. It doesn't. It can happen. You have to just have a religious belief that it does happen because stars, therefore, tis globe.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Continue.
All right. So anyway, the upward Earth bulge shadow. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone else really talk about that, but I don't know why. But I think that's just such a huge proof of the flat Earth that the sun does not actually go below the horizon and produce that shadow that we can all see up in the sky. I don't know if you remember that, but there used to be one of the big globe proofs was the upward shadow of Mount Rainier. But lately, I don't hear them using that one anymore because that implication of now here comes the bold shadow. It should be following up right behind that upward mountain shadow,
Right.
And when and in fact, that's just just how perspective works, which is just another fascinating idea.
On the debunker section, there's a whole bunch of those videos. P Brain, yourself, others that completely destroy the upward rising shadow. But if someone, I mean, not the upward rising shadow, the sun under the clouds, but if you can observe this yourself. This was just in a couple of days, I took these pictures. So I'm going to type in sun under, and these pictures I took, right? So here's the sun setting, right? The sun is under the clouds, but the bottoms of the clouds are dark and the tops of the clouds are lit. It's just perspective.
I love it.
Right. And then if you go to like this one, you can see the undersides of the clouds look like they're lit. No, those are thin clouds. The thick clouds aren't lit up on the bottom. They're opaque. It's only when you have thin clouds. Now, I think there also might be circumstances where the sun is reflecting off of water and lighting up clouds. So again, the optics of the sky. Here's the sun rising. Right? This is a sunrise. And if you look at those clouds, the tops of these clouds are lit. The tops of the clouds are lit. A little hard to see, but it's clearly under. How come these aren't all lit from underneath? Right? But the Globers don't want to look at this. They just want to look at one,
Yeah.
They just want to look at the one that supports their belief. Because if you have a belief, it doesn't matter how weak the evidence is, you'll just cling on to it if you're unwilling to change your belief based on new information, right? Sun under, light over. The top of this cloud is lit. How is that possible? It's just perspective. And people don't understand, right? If you're standing next to, let's say, a highway overpass, right? So you got the bridge, the highway's above you, and it's late in the afternoon and you can see the sun underneath the bridge in the sky. Is that sun lower than the bridge? You're looking at it from under the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Perspective. You flat earthers, all you say is perspective. Yeah, because you don't understand perspective, because you don't like it, and people don't take into account the back to front perspective. We know left right, we know top down, but the back to front is even worse.
You'll
Back,
have to explain that one to me.
so so here, let me pull this up. So you know how things from the left go to the right, right go to the left, the top goes down, the sky ramps down, and everything kind of goes to that vanishing point, right? Right? Right.
Hmm.
Everything goes to a vanishing point. But there's also the front back perspective. So here, wait a second. Where's my front back perspective? All right. Here is I got three lines here. All right. So the distance from this line to this line is, I don't know, 20 times from this line to this line, right? The amount of space between these two lines
Right.
is far more than this. But let's see what we're looking at here. This is down to my beach. This island out here is about quarter of a mile, let's say a half a mile away. I'll just round. I'm giving the globe the benefit of the doubt. From this island to these buildings here is 25 miles. So this amount of space has to be compressed into here 50 times.
Wow.
All right. So whenever you take something, like I got a boat here and I move it out to here, it reduces, I don't know, 80% reduction. So if I moved it that same distance again, it would be another 80% reduction from that size. And you wouldn't be able to see it. It's already too small. And then I have to do that 50 more times to get to that final line there. And so things that are going into the distance in your visual field stop getting any farther away. They just get smaller and you can't perceive that they're even farther. So imagine a wave right here at this line and the boat is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Soon it'll be behind that wave from your point of view because perspective is just crushing it into the horizon. Here's a drone shot. So you can't even see it. New York City's out here. Okay. From where the drone is to here, and this is up high, that's about 2 miles, right? And then from this land here to where you see the horizon is another 30 miles. Okay. So another 30 miles of compression. So here's it low down. All right. This is a tenth of a mile away. This pier. It's a tenth of a mile away. And this
Hmm.
horizon to the right of the pier, right there, I don't know. I don't know. It's 25, 30 miles away,
Yeah. Yeah. 25,
right?
30 miles. I would
Yeah.
guess.
So this boat is just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Um, and it's just going to disappear behind the entire boat, sail and all, will go behind this pier. Now, this pier went all the way across, and I was a mile away from the pier. I wouldn't be able to see the pier. I would just see a horizon. And the boat would be compressed, smaller and smaller and smaller, but you don't see it in your visual field getting any farther away because you can't perceive it. Make sense?
Yeah. And when you zoom in with the camera, it changes that all again too. You
Right,
know.
but even here, if this is here and the boat's on the other side of that, you can't zoom in past this, and the boat will be hiding behind it. Even though this boat is taller
Hmm.
than it, it'll be so small and it hasn't moved back in your visual field because even though it's physically moved there, you have no difference in that visual field, right? You can't perceive the distance. So when you're looking out at something, especially from ground level, the first 95% of your visual field is one unit. And then from there to as far as you can see, maybe that's 100 times of those 100 times more of those units.
Yeah. Fascinating.
It is, it makes you actually use your God-given brain to actually kind of think these things through in this reality that we're in. And people don't like doing that. As Jaron always says, you want to get rich, invent something that makes people lazier. You know what that is? A textbook. That makes people lazier. Just memorize it. And then you get an A and you get a degree on your wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
So
anyway, I had
go
a
ahead.
had a couple more tests that I forgot to mention, but did you
Great.
see the recent Flatlanders video that I shared? This
I'm sure I have. Remind me what it was.
35.9 miles,
Was that the, was that on
35.9
the,
mile laser test.
was that on the train tracks?
Yeah, it
Yeah, yeah,
was.
yeah.
Anyway, that one's another huge proof of the flat Earth. But I put for my top proof of the long distance observations was the BMLSB 69 Anacapa Arch one. I don't know if you remember that one,
I do
but
remember it. Yeah.
I did the calculations, and because you can see, he had observation height of just 1.5 feet off of the water, and he can see all the way to the bottom of the Anacapa Arch, which was like 38 miles away or something like that. But anyway, that it would create, if we lived on a ball, it would create a ball with a diameter of 3 million miles. And so,
But but then the bottom of the arch was missing.
it really
Bottom of the
wasn't,
arch
but but even if a centimeter's missing, they'll be sure to point that out. And it's just another one of those things that just makes me laugh and just like, oh, none of these people are honest. I've actually always wanted to find an honest globe believer, but they're all dishonest, very dishonest.
It's sad, but you know what? I can understand why they're so desperate. They're looking for souls. That's all. Imagine if you didn't have a soul. You'd be desperate, man. You'd be desperate. If you lost control of your soul, you'd be desperate trying to get a new one.
Yeah, I've jumped through so many hoops. There's one guy that was following my channel. He dedicated a channel to debunking me. And anyway, he actually lives in Utah as well. And he said, "Well, the day that you can prove there's no curvature over Bear Lake, I will become a flat earther." And of course, after I went ahead and proved that with the laser test, and 19 miles with no curvature, you could see the other laser and its reflection. Never heard back from him again, but it's just another one of those ones where it's like it's just all they'll make you jump through that hoop, and then they'll make you jump through another hoop if you once you meet that one. But
Right.
let me move on to
please do.
what I would call my next top proof of the flat Earth. And I know that Nathan Oakley and Quantum Eraser, they'd be all upset that I don't mention, celestial navigation. And I agree. I do agree with what they're saying there, that, with celestial navigation, everything is measured flat. They always use a flat baseline for all their measurements. And I agree. Oh, that's a good proof of the flat Earth. But it didn't make my top list because it wasn't one of those ones that really affected me. So, it's just a difference of opinion. No discredit to them. But another one of my favorite ones is the high altitude balloons. If we measure that there's no curvature on water or land, there's absolutely no measurable curvature, and there should be if we lived on a ball. But the fact that now we go up high with a weather balloon and there's no curvature up there as well, and the fact that they fake it all the time on everywhere else, that again, that's just one of those another huge proofs. I've shown so many of those high altitude balloons. I do have that on my playlist as well. Well, there's so many. When you really do look at it and examine it closely, you'll see that there's absolutely no curvature at a high altitude balloon.
But Ben, when this balloon went up, it was able to see. It was able to see the stars and whatnot. This is the first balloon that went up, a U.S. Army balloon. And when it got into space, we were able to see. Look, they're looking up. It has to be real. And and if I get to the end here, look at the stuff. And they only show it for a second, so just watch carefully. Well, where'd it go? What happened?
The star right through the moon.
Yeah. Well, that there it is. Look
again. They've been faking space from the beginning.
Look at this. Come on. I mean, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Maybe people were just that stupid back then, and I
think so.
Yeah, they still waited until now. Now people are this stupid.
But even now, I share the video of the astronauts, and they can't figure out, whether stars are visible in the in the sky up in space.
Yeah,
and you get all these differing opinions of, vastness of black. It's just pure black, nothing you can see. And then all of a sudden the next one's, it's bright, it's whole, so bright up in the sky, and you can see millions and millions and millions of stars. And with all their videos, I mean, if they were really on ISS, you would think that would be one of the easiest things. Grab their camera, point it outside, zoom in on Mars, show it, very beautiful picture of Mars as they're zooming in with the camera right there. They'd be showing those things all the time. They don't do any of that stuff.
I have a question for you. Like you go out on a cloudless night away from the city, and the stars are amazing. Go up to the top of a mountain in Pennsylvania or somewhere, and the stars are incredible. Fly over the middle of the ocean at midnight on your way to Australia. You look out the window, and there's hardly any stars at all.
Yeah, it's a
How,
fascinating.
how do you explain that? Now, I don't know
Yeah,
what
I don't
the
know.
answer is, but in the heliocentric model, it doesn't make any sense. It should be, you should be able to read your book by the starlight, through the window, right? On a darked out plane, everyone's sleeping. I got my blanket over my head, making sure there's no light blocking the window. I'm looking out. I see like 5 lights out there. And I think 2 of them were airplanes, right? Like, where's the friggin' Milky Way? Where's everything? That was before I was a flat earther.
Yeah, it's another one of those fascinating things. Like I don't know how the stars interact with us. I don't even know how the sun interacts with us. I mean, I don't even know what sunlight is. I mean, is it just interaction with the noble gases, or is it actual, based on the light coming from the sun
Right.
itself? I don't know the answer to those. I wish I did know, but unfortunately science has become stupid because of the globe, and no one's investigating those things anymore because the globe has an answer. And if you don't put out that something along the same lines in your publication, you're not going to get published. You're going to lose your tenure as a professor if you go out there and you say that the heliocentric model is nonsense.
They've made scientists are heroes. You can buy a politician, but you can't buy a scientist. Wait a minute.
That's one I do know is false because I've purchased scientists quite a few frequently in the legal world. That
Okay.
just happens.
Yeah.
Experts will say what you want them to say. And for somebody to sit there and go, oh, this expert says that. No, he says exactly what he's being paid to say.
Yeah. All right. I agree.
And,
good, good.
oh, I was just going to go on to the next one. The high altitude balloons brings me to that. What I love that Felix Baumgartner video where he goes up there and they open the canister at 127,000 feet, and the horizon didn't even drop one bit. From ground level all the way to 127,000 feet. But he's up there for 3 hours. Yeah, that one right there. He is up there for 3 hours, and there is no motion of the Earth that affects that.
And didn't he land east of where he took off from?
Yes, 30 miles east of where he took off. And I think it was FEB, Founded Earth Brothers. They just put out a video showing, people that have been in balloons for, days, it's like 30 days or something like that. So, I mean, I just use this example because it's 3 hours and people can see that he should have landed in the Pacific Ocean. And the idea that the atmosphere is attached to the ground spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, that idea is so, I don't know how to say it. It's just stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's just absolute fantasy that spin of the Earth could not affect a high altitude balloon where the air is up there so thin, but it's supposed to be increasing in speed to keep up with the ground below it. It's so dumb. I don't even understand how anyone could even use that as an argument that the Earth is Velcro to the atmosphere Velcro to the ground. That does not happen in reality. It's just more nonsense. That's another one of my big proofs.
The calculation at 127,000 feet, how low the horizon's supposed to be? So the horizon is exactly the same from when he's on the ground, and to when he's up there. I mean, the horizon's right there at 127,000 feet. So it's right there. It couldn't even be higher. I mean, it's literally right there. I know that at 39,000 feet, an airplane should have the horizon should be like 78,000 feet below the below the plane. 78,000 feet. You can't even imagine what 78,000 feet is, right?
Yeah.
And people don't realize that because at 39,000 feet, the horizon is 242 miles away. So if you're on the Earth something 242 miles away would have to be 39,050 feet of curvature. So it would have to be taller than that for you to see it. Then rise yourself up where, you're up at a 39,000 feet and it'll be 78,000 feet. 78,000 feet away.
Oh my.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
And I put out a couple of videos where they plotted that in Blender and shown that there's a substantial drop. It should be, it should be looking down absolutely at the horizon, not looking straight out at it. I think it was I can't remember what it was. It was one of the propagandists. He did a video on that, and he's like, "Look, the capsule's swinging wildly," and it's like, are you kidding? The capsule's not swinging wildly and creating this false illusion where the horizon is. I mean, it was just 100%. He was lying, and it just another one of those facts that they hire these liars to go out there and just spin what.
Yeah, like when Cody Cotton went up on his Jeff Bezos jump, he came down. He's like, I saw Earth curvature, and Felix Baumgarten, yep, saw the curve of the Earth, and everyone always has to mention, that they squeeze it in there, and you can tell that it's a forced comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like those, and I'd be fascinated to know who goes up to these people and says, "Hey, but you got to mention here that you saw the curvature of the Earth." I think that'd be pretty hilarious. But where you watch movies and every movie seems to have something to deal with space, something to deal with the curvature, something to do with the balls, gravity, or something. Almost every movie has some mention of it in some way, and it's just another one of those things that just makes me laugh.
Yep.
How they program us. But anyway, so we got to the non-moving Earth. Is absolutely 100% Earth is stationary.
That's go every test for Earth curvature.
He saw the curvature of the Earth at 10 feet.
Yeah, he did. He saw it for sure. And you know what's funny? I don't know if I have the meme handy. This is what he wears to go up, however high they went. But then look at a jet fighter, a fighter pilot, what he has to wear to go up, not even nearly that height. Full helmet, G gear, and everything. Yeah. He's in his friggin' snowboarding jumpsuit, no helmet, and they're just in space and they're having fun. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But even if they do go up, which I doubt, I'm skeptical of everything.
I say no one is ever on any of the flights. Oh, here it is. Right? For this is gear for 1,300 mile per hour is 45,000 feet versus 2,200 miles per hour, 350,000 feet. Okay. All right. That alone. Come on. That alone.
That's hilarious. All right. So the next one I wanted to talk about were the professionals. And, a lot of people have shared this. I have a little video on it myself on my channel, but that's all the documents that say flat and stationary Earth, that they assume a flat and stationary Earth on so many engineering documents, so many NASA documents, so many military industrial complex documents, flat and stationary Earth assumptions. Now, the globe zealot responses, well, they're just assuming it to make the model easier. No, they would never assume a flat and stationary Earth for anything if it weren't flat and stationary. They just would never make that assumption because none of their programs would work. And talking like with the military, I've shared the F-16 pilot, which talks about the targeting software on an F-16, where they're putting out their radar up to 80 miles out, and there are no adjustments for this airplane, the opposing jets crawling over a curvature, because they would be 20, up to 5,000 to 20,000 feet lower than they're appearing based on radar. And so they would actually all the time see these other jets, okay, they're starting at, it looks like they're at 20,000, but that would be a calculation that puts them at 50,000. And so there are none of those calculations. And no fighter pilot has ever heard about it. It's never happened. It's not in any flight books about adjusting for the curvature of the Earth when witnessing opposing fight, in jets fighting each other. That would happen if there was curvature. That would be absolutely necessary for every military professional, every Navy, every pilot, every gunner, every one of my favorites is, the idea that the bulge is disappearing. Well, if you're seeing ships out there and they're supposedly behind a bulge of the earth, then you can't shoot those ships. And so sailors would have to know, hey, there's actually a curvature blocking that. So we actually can't hit that ship until it gets over. Every one of them would know what inches per mile squared, all the time, because they'd be using it all the time in the military. They'd be, and another one is like for like the gyroscope. That's another one of my top proofs. But like, my wife worked for a military industrial complex company for a while, and they had their UAV gyroscopes. Okay, that's one of the things they produce there. And we talked with the engineers and said, "Is there?" Because they spin them up and they keep them. They have to make sure that they can run. I think they run like 24 hours. Some of these gyroscopes, they just keep them running to make sure that they're calibrated correctly. And you'd ask them, they ever adjust for the curvature of the earth? Like, oh no, never. And if if the earth were spinning, if the earth was wobbly, in its orbital path at 66,000 miles per hour, if all those things were happening, those gyroscopes would be going crazy. They cannot function at all. They're very sensitive gyroscopes. And that also brings me like to the attitude indicator on an airplane. I know that like Wolfie and them, they'll say, well, the pendulous vanes automatically adjusted for the curvature of the earth. And it's like, okay, again, you're like, okay, so everything, somehow the curvature always disappears from view, always disappears in all aspects where you would expect the curvature to be there. And I guess these pendulous vanes automatically adjust for the curvature of the earth by making the rotor adjust for gravity. Okay, so we'll take those pendulous vanes off. So is any other gyroscope where you could find on an airplane that shows us that curvature of the earth and measure it with a gyroscope? You could. And
Right.
like I still think that accelerometers in our phone, all those things, they can make those are so sensitive enough that they could measure the curvature of the earth, but none of those do. I did a test with a MEMS what's called MEMS gyroscope, electrical gyroscope. That again could drive 1,000 miles and it's not going to show any. It shows you going over elevation all the way, but it doesn't show you any adjustment for the curvature of the Earth. Just more and more proofs that our Earth is flat and stationary.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
throw a couple things in there. You mentioned the documents? Do you have a file with all of those documents separately, not in a video, just the actual files or photos of them?
I have to say my last computer crashed horribly and I lost everything, and I've lost so much. So
Anybody that
I
has those documents, if you want to send them to me, I'd like to add them to the images section so you can just type in documents and there they all are. And so people
yeah.
can have them. Feel free. I
And
appreciate
then
that.
I lost them after I made that one
Right,
video, one of
right. I
I think
mean,
it's the second video on my flat Earth facts list.
I can do screenshots. I just searched documents in the video search and there's a whole bunch of videos. I believe that's yours right there.
Yeah.
Let us,
I go through them, just some of my favorite ones. I
yep.
mean, I don't go through all of them, but there's just some of my favorite ones where I had I have to, no, I have some of them. At
So
least I think I still have the ones on that list.
have you looked into the angle of descent?
Yeah, I have a video on that one too.
Yeah, so I actually talked to some pilots, Delta pilots, other airlines, and they're telling me they do not calculate for curvature. And the pilot gets to decide when they at what rate they drop. And some pilots like to do it over a longer range. This one pilot, he likes to keep his customers very comfortable, so he likes requesting permission to descend farther out, so it's a smoother descent. 125 miles out. If you follow the angle of descent, you're going to be 2 miles too high if the Earth is curved. 2 miles. That's a problem. Oh, damn it! We got to come around again. Right?
Again, that would be in their calculations. It would be
Yeah.
absolutely in their
Right. And
calculations.
let me ask you this: have you heard about the SR-72 Blackbird, the new one?
Oh, like it goes how
Four
much?
thousand miles an hour, right? 4,000 miles an hour. So if it's going halfway around the Earth, right? That's 6,000 miles. At 4,000 miles per hour, the drop would be about 4,000 miles. Okay. So, so that's one, I'm giving the rounding down 1 mile per second drop. Now, they say planes fly with their nose up 2-3 degrees, right? The SR-71 at, much slower speed can't turn left, right, up or down at full speed. It has to go exactly straight. So We'll assume that's the same for this thing. It has wings. It's going straight. If it was angled down, the pilots would be pushed against the ceiling, right? How is it dropping way faster than free fall with wings in the air? How is it dropping faster? A mile per second. A mile per second. Okay. The SR-71 has to go 80 stories per second. So imagine an 80-story building, you threw a bowling ball out. It would have to hit the ground in 1 second to match the speed that the SR-71 would have to drop to follow the curve.
Oh, wow.
Right. And the reason people, the normal people that are just trying to learn, they like, I can't figure it out. It's not because you're stupid. It's stupid. You're not stupid. It's stupid. Okay. It's stupid. That's why you can't figure it out. You don't have to know high-end math calculations. These globers out there like, oh, pi inverse square, great. You're great at memorizing formulas. That's not reality. So that's all I got to say.
Another one I wanted to mention was the Wizzo interview that I did. That was the F-15 the guy backseater, and he uses their targeting software again. He lines up their I forget the name of the instrument, but he puts the target on there. It's like a P1000 type camera. They put a crosshairs on a plane that's far away, and that information will automatically tell them, the elevation of the other jet and what angle it is from them. So, and one thing they never saw, again, he confirmed, is they never saw jets that were angled below their horizontal, then rise up over a curvature of the Earth to meet them. And he confirmed that there's just no way that their targeting software, their scopes could ever work on a ball, because there's just too much movement over this curvature, the alleged curvature of the Earth. And I guess we did talk about a little bit about the outer space killing us all, if outer space were real.
But there's a pressure gradient, Ben. There's a pressure gradient. You have to understand. There's a pressure gradient.
Which could not exist with a vacuum next to it.
Yes.
Just move on to the one of my favorite ones I like to talk about are the flat Earth beams, and like the Knickbein targeting software from the Germans, who are using this software to, one beam over in Germany and one over in France, and they would cross each other. One would put the path of the way the airplane was traveling, and the other one would tell the airplane when to drop its bombs. And they're dropping bombs on factories, and some of these beams are originating 400 plus miles away. And Dave McKeegan's tried to make some counter videos against it, but they say, oh, it diverges so much that it goes over the curvature of the Earth. Okay, well, if it's diverging over the curvature of the Earth, how does it then get back down over the hump? And the other question is, then it'd be so wide that they couldn't use it as a targeting software. And they've actually did measurements of those beams, and they're like 400 yards across at the source there in Derby, England. So those beams did not diverge that far. And that was a big proof for me. I don't know if you saw the LoRa transmission recently. That was the LoRa transmission is supposed to be a direct line of sight, 820 miles. It said from sea level to sea level, and no curvature blocked out that transmission, and it should be impossible under the globe. I've shared, there's Marconi, there's the Loran system, the one I really liked was that 515 mile microwave transmission. Again, it's supposed to be line of sight, and they're communicating at 515 miles, and the curvature drop and hidden should be so vast that there's none of this equipment should ever work on the globe. And one of those ones that's kind of funny is that they'll say on that one that's tropospheric scatter or something like that. And it's like, okay, so if you're saying that it bounces off of the clouds or something, then why would you ever need matter if you even have line of sight? If you can just get it to scatter everywhere, and anyone can read it over the curvature of the Earth. And also there's the fact that these beams were from 100 miles or to all the way to 515 miles. And so it always just magically just wraps around this hidden curvature to work out perfectly. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
The ring stead.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And here's your house example. Okay, there's your house. You have to believe that person. Oops, that person. Where'd it go? That person is. You can see them. They're going to refract up over that house.
It just make that house disappear. It shrinks into nothingness as the person behind them and just stays right there. Because that's what refraction does. That's what refraction does. It makes things just disappear.
Everything refracts up perfectly to pretend it's all on the same level, or everything's just on the same level.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's kind of the things I wanted to talk about. And if there's anything left that you want to talk about.
No, that's it. We've gone almost 2 hours. So
yeah.
Awesome. That was fun. And
yes, thank you. That was a fun time. I actually hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, the truth is fun, and just ignore the trolls, ask questions, use your mind, don't believe anything, know things, right? I believe that you live in Utah. Do you live in Utah?
Yes, I do right now.
Okay, so I believe it, but I don't know it.
Yeah.
I don't know it, right? A lot of evidence towards it, but I have never confirmed it. So, all right, Ben, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
We will. I will link his new video that we talked about at the beginning, right below this one, and watch them both. Awesome.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Thanks, Ben.